All right, next we have John Mosey, flash fiction extraordinaire. He's going to tell you about really short stories in about 30 seconds.
Just 30 seconds. All right, let's make this brief. What is flash fiction? If you're not familiar with the term, it's an easy one. Flash fiction is really short stories. If you are familiar at all with Ernest Hemingway or the legends of Ernest Hemingway, you perhaps have heard his 6-word story. And flash fiction is really anywhere between 6 and I'd say about 1,500 words. There's no hard and fast science to how many numbers, how many words are in flash fiction, but somewhere between 6 and 1,500. The famous one from Ernest Hemingway is For Sale, Baby Shoes, Nevermore. And that really is, I mean, it tells a whole story right there, and you're all imagining that scenario. And so that's one of the things he's famous for. But flash fiction has been around for a long time. Right now is a great time to be writing flash fiction. If you want to see other 6-word stories, you can go to 6wordstories.net. There are some fun ones there, and there's a place to submit your own 6-word stories. It's a nice little exercise. But the question I want you to ask first is, why should you be writing flash fiction? Well, there are a few good reasons why you should be writing flash fiction, regardless of what you normally write. Writing flash fiction will teach you the value of the right word. Too many times, we writers fill the page with as many words as possible because we want to boost our all-important word count. And I think any good editor will tell you it doesn't necessarily matter how many words you have, but that you have the right word. For example, if you wrote a sentence including, "It's really snowing like cats and dogs," that could probably be replaced by the single word, "blizzard." And that's probably a better word. You will learn how to kill your darlings. If you're not familiar with this phrase, many times we create darlings in our writing. Just recently I read a story on NPR about how it's called the IKEA effect. And the gist is you can build a table from IKEA, and even if you build it in the worst possible fashion so that the top is not level and it's missing pieces and you've got an extra leg when you're done, you will like that table more than if someone else made the same table for you. Because we are investing a piece of ourselves into the creation of that product. I am notorious for loving my own writing. I make myself laugh out loud when I read my own words. And I am horrible at creating darlings. Writing flash fiction has been a great experience for me because it teaches me how to kill them. A few times, I write with Bob. One of the reasons we call the weaklings is because we meet every week to write. And many times when I'm writing, I will interrupt Bob from his writing or editing, and I will say, "Hey, listen to this," and I will read him something I've written that I think is just the most genius thing in the world. And Bob will look at me and he'll say, "Maybe try again." Bob helps me to kill my darlings, but I'm slowly learning how to do it myself. Many times we create those novel phrases that we think, oh, that is the perfect line for a book. And when someone else reads it, it takes them completely out of the storyline. It might be a great line, but if it doesn't end up building your story, moving your plot forward, showing more about your characters, then you need to kill that darling. Flash fiction and limiting your word count is a great way to force yourself to do that. It will help you distill your story. If you are writing a 10-book epic, and I'm reading through The Land of Ice and Fire by George R. R. Martin right now. I'm in book 3 on page 600, and I'm only halfway through. If you can take your story, regardless of the length, and boil it down to 500 words, you will get a much better idea of what your plot is, who your important characters are, what you want your people to learn. So even if you're planning on writing a book the length of Land of Ice and Fire, if you can take that and distill the important things, you will write a much better book for it. And lastly, media consumers are being taught the value of brevity through products like YouTube and Twitter. If you've done any research on YouTube, you'll see that they chart the popular things that are on there. And the most successful videos on YouTube are less than 5 minutes. You can put any linked thing on YouTube. In fact, we will be posting our videos from tonight on the YouTube channel, and each one is going to be 15 to 20 minutes. They are going to rate terribly on YouTube because the best things are less than 5 minutes. I was recently contacted by a friend of one of the writers groups who is a filmmaker, and he has a unique problem in that he thinks up a film and it turns into a 2-hour movie. And he really wanted to be able to make a 5-minute film for YouTube as a way to get his name out there, build up some recognition for himself, to be able to pitch things to Hollywood later. But each time he comes up with an idea, it balloons out of control into this giant thing. So he contacted me and he said, Andrew Rogers gave me your name. He said, you write flash fiction. Do you have anything I could turn into a very short film? And so I referred him to my website where I post flash fiction from time to time. Told him a few stories that I think would be good, and he is in the process of turning one of those into a short film, which is a great opportunity for both of us. And it's going to be good for him and YouTube users rather than sitting there through an hour and a half for a person they've never heard of before. And also Twitter. Is anyone here on Twitter? Great. Then you are familiar with flash fiction of a kind. You are limited to 140 characters in order to get your message across. That is a great writing technique to hone your craft, to say what you want to say in as few characters or words as possible. Now, 10 tips on how to write flash fiction. It helps when you're writing flash fiction to choose a word length before beginning so that you know when you've reached your goal, or if you make a story, your chosen length was 150 words and you come in at 173. Well, now you've got a challenge because now you need to edit out 23 of those words and still have a coherent story. So it's really helpful before you begin to have a dedicated word count that you're shooting for. Limit your characters. Now, I don't mean the same kind of characters as Twitter, 140. That would be very short stories. What I mean is, if you are going to be writing a fiction story and you have a cast of 20 people, you're only going to be able to tell people their names. You're not going to be able to tell a story with that, unless they have very fascinating names. So limit your characters to 1 or 2 characters and focus on them. Write it as one scene. Another good exercise, if you are writing a longer thing, take one of your scenes from your book that you're writing and write it as a piece of flash fiction. And if you are starting out and you're with a fresh idea, just focus on one scene. Help it be concise. Stick to one plot. If you try to fit a plot and 2 subplots in something that is 100 words long, you're either very talented or very stupid. Use one theme. If you're going to try and in your X amount length thing talk about global warming, great. If you're going to try and talk about global warming and love and obsession with sea creatures, that's probably too much. You're going to lose people. They're not going to see the value of what you're writing. They're going to get confused. So stick to one theme. Introduce the main conflict in the first sentence. That one has 2 points. So introduce the main conflict in the first sentence. That way, people will immediately know what the rest of it is. Set it up well. And then show anything relating to the main conflict rather than writing it. So show the main conflict, don't tell the main conflict. Tell the backstory, don't show it. Do we know the difference between showing and telling? Showing is having a person, if he's thirsty, you would show them getting a glass of water. If you are telling a person, you'd say, John was thirsty. So that's kind of the difference between showing and telling. Tell the backstory, don't show it. Show anything relating to the main conflict. Save the twist until the end. Not all flash fiction has a twist, but in my opinion, all good flash fiction has a twist. It's going to have something that will help you remember it. So practice your twists, read other examples of flash fiction, and save it till the very end. And then eliminate all of the essential words. If you come out with a great story at 100 words, maybe challenge yourself and say, can I get this down to 90? Can I get it down to 70? Just challenge yourself and eliminate all of the non-essential words. And then I want to show you an example. This is from my own blog. It'll probably take a second to connect here. But I wanted to show you one of the stories that I've written. Every so often I do a flash fiction challenge on my blog where I give a prompt and allow people to send in their own contributions. This one, the challenge was to use three of a set of words. I think I chose 10 words. You just had to pick 3 and incorporate them into your story somehow. The words I chose from that list were matchstick, shoe, and levitation. And to read it here for you, Dr. Mark Hedge was ridiculed in the physics community when his mentally based theory of gravity was released. Conflict. Dr. Mind Over Matter, we called him. He claimed the ability to move small objects with his mind, toothpicks, matchsticks, paper clips. Of course, no one had seen it. The process disrupts recording devices, he claimed, and my assistants had terrible timing. But I'm working out the problems and should soon be able to prove my work to my colleagues. When he arrived at the International Conference on Physics, Science, and Technology, his peers laughed until they noticed his shoes not touching the floor. So the conflict is in the first sentence, the twist is at the end. We were all assuming, of course, there is no mentally based theory of gravity, and then the twist is, there is. So that is an example of flash fiction. So now that you know what flash fiction is, you've got some idea of how to write it, what do you do with it now? Well, I mentioned that I have those opportunities on my blog where you can go and practice, just get some ideas, take a prompt, and submit it. I have about 100 followers, which isn't that many, but I've only been blogging for less than a year now, and so you'll get some recognition from there. And it goes out on my Facebook, and I've got like 500 followers, so great. But it gives you a chance to practice. There are 3 things you can do with any prompt. You can let the prompt lead you. If the prompt is, here's my shoe, then you can take that and incorporate a story that has the line, here's my shoe in it. The second thing you can do is bury the prompt. Try and separate the words in such a way that no one notices that you've even written the prompt there. I have the most fun burying the prompts. And the third thing is forget the prompt entirely. If that prompt leads you to an idea, and the idea is better than trying to include the stupid prompt, go ahead. You have my permission. The second thing you can do is get paid for your flash fiction. I compiled recently a list of places where you can publish flash fiction for money. There are like 50 places, just from doing a little bit of research, that will pay you 5 cents a word. And that may not sound like a lot, but flash fiction, you have to understand, it takes a lot less time to write than a novel the length of a George R. Martin novel. So we'll be hearing about Bob Evenhouse's writing next, and his length of novel. In the time that it would take a person to write a book, and this is coming to you from someone who has 4 novels, none of them completed, it takes a lot less time to write a piece of flash fiction, submit it to somewhere, and get it published. And then you have a publishing credit to your name, which links to your platform. It's all making sense. So that is the end of that presentation. And if there are any questions about flash fiction or blogging, yes, Cynthia.
Hey Josh, who do you like to read for flash fiction? Do you have some suggestions?
When I first, the question was, who do I like to read when doing flash fiction? When I first started into flash fiction, I started by doing a search for who was writing flash fiction. There are communities online, and one place you can write down is Julia's Place. Julia's Place is a great place for amateur writers to go get prompts and write. She regularly has about 30 different contributors, and they vary from week to week. People who are taking and learning the craft. And so I really enjoy reading other people who are at the same level as I am, and that's a great place to do it. Another good place, NPR's 3-Minute Fiction, and they have a contest right now. I think the end of the contest is next Monday. So if you have a chance over the weekend, the prompt, I believe, at 3-Minute Fiction is write a story as though you were leaving a recording on a person's voicemail. And if you win, they turn it into a 3-minute story and you get played on NPR, which has a lot of listeners. They also publish those online, and there's not always just one winner for those. So that's a good place to go and to read some quality flash fiction that has been vetted by other readers. So those are 2 places that are good starting points for flash fiction. Any other questions? All right. Well, we will wrap this up and take another 5 to 10 minute break for bathroom/coffee. And if you have any questions, we will have some time later, or you can find me right now. Thank you.